Thank you, Jeff. Kind of interesting. I'm sitting here watching you guys, and now suddenly my face blows up on the screen. So, again, thank you all for the opportunity. I want to bring you all greetings from your brothers and sisters in China, in Mongolia, in Nepal, in India, and Burma, as well as here within the States where our Agape team is located. We're fortunate to have a couple of our board members on the line today and joining us, so I bring you their greetings. I also just want to share with you some things that, as Jeff said, I'm going to share some message about where we've been in the past to give you all an update, as well as looking at the future. But one of the first things I want to share with you is I was looking back through some old records, and I didn't realize it, but you guys have been involved with this work since about 2003. In fact, I saw Jeff Zimmer's name associated with some conversations back in 2003 with our founder. So you guys have been dear friends, supporters, involved in our work for a long time, and I just want to thank you for that. You guys have been responsible for impacting hundreds and hundreds of children, shaping their lives, having an impact on them, and I just want you all to know how important I think that is, but I want to say thank you for them. I'm going to share some of their stories in a few minutes, but I just want you to realize the kind of impact that you all have had. And so thank you for that. I also appreciate the opportunity to sit here and experience some fellowship with you. And I really miss fellowship even more. We sit here in our homes now in this time of assembly, but I was really encouraged and blessed by the way you all are sharing your situation. It's not a great situation. We're doing this virtually, but I'm really encouraged by the way you all are looking out for each other, and I'm especially encouraged about your prayer time. And so that's an encouragement, not just for me personally, but I think other churches can be blessed with that as well. The way that you guys are sharing and lifting each other up, it's extremely important. What I want to do this morning is share an update. I'm also going to get into talking about the future, and then I just want to address some questions, talk about things that you all want to hear about. And if I can do this correctly, I should be able to hit share my screen, and this should come up. There we go. How's that? Everybody see what we're doing now? All right. One of the things that I want us to see, if I can get this slide to change. There we go. I want to talk about who we are. Who is Agape Asia? I'm going to talk a little bit about what happened in 2020, give you all an update on that. And I'm going to address at the very end, I want to address a question that we hear sometimes, and that is, why are you guys caring for children? I want to tell you a little story, a little background about that. For those of you who know, and as Jeff Sermon said earlier, we started in China in 2000, actually in 1997, our founder started traveling to China after having been a missionary up in Canada and met some Chinese students. Since then, God has opened doors for us in other places. We started working in the Philippines, which we're no longer supporting work there, but we helped start a mission program there back in about 2016, 17. We started working in Nepal, Myanmar. 2018, we got involved in Mongolia. And last year, we actually started working with a ministry, and I think the founder is actually observing, he's worshiping with us this morning, a ministry that started in India over 40 years ago. And we have merged with them, and they're now part of our work. And God has blessed us with these opportunities. And this is not just us individually. This is God giving us the opportunities to partner with ministries that are on the ground working in these locations. And these are church planters. These are disciple makers. These are individuals that are caring for children, and that's their focus. And we're going to get into some of that work in a few minutes, but I just want you to see that what started in China is now touching lives in lots of other areas, and you all are responsible for that. You heard us in Scripture a few minutes ago read several passages, and it's important to understand that underlying what we do is Matthew 28. And even though we're not able to talk about it in public on our website, or in other places, one of the things you have to realize what we're doing, whether it's China, Mongolia, or other places, we're a disciple-making organization. Our focus is on making disciples in these locations. Matthew 28, we believe, is pivotal to who we are, and that is Christ gave us the instruction, go make disciples. Some translations say, as you are going. So what we seek to do is work with those individuals in these places who are making disciples, but not only making disciples, these are individuals that are being the hands and feet of Jesus. As you heard in Matthew 25, when Christ talked about what judgment would be like, he didn't talk about the greatest doctrine. He didn't talk about people who pray the best or individuals that could read the greatest scriptures or individuals who had the greatest faith. He talked about the judgment day will be a time when our actions are being judged by our Father, by the King. And so it's important, we believe, to be those hands and feet. We are feeding. We are visiting in prison. We are taking care of the least of these, trying to accomplish that mission. And James 1:27, again, we all understand the focus on children here, but of all things that James could have talked about, in talking about the purity of religion, pure and undefiled religion before God is caring for widows and orphans. So that's the mission. That's the why we do what we do. I like to describe this when people ask us, tell me more about how you do this. It's simply we work with churches in Asia. We work with disciple makers in Asia to raise up the next generation of Christians from these abandoned and vulnerable children. That's our goal. That's what we hope to do. Yes, it's providing physical needs. Yes, it's providing surgeries. It's providing education. But the goal is to raise up Christians in these places, and it's happening, brothers and sisters, because of the things that you all have been doing and many other churches around the country and around the world. I also describe it as sometimes I like to think about a three-legged stool. I'm a picture guy. I need to see it. We make disciples, and the three legs of that stool are medical care, education, and orphan care. And those are the three services we provide. We have care centers. We have family-based care. We provide education, ensuring that every child that comes into our care receives an education. Education is the only way these children are going to break the chain of poverty that they're living in. Every child that we work with, every family we work with are in a situation that's impoverished. They can't afford for their kids to go to school. And we provide medical care, caring for families, providing surgeries for families, life-saving surgeries for children when their families can't afford it, mostly open heart surgeries. And how do we do that? And this is another piece I shared with your elders the other day. This is fairly unique. Some people, some organizations, many of you work with them that provide care for children, and there's nothing unique about them. What I think is unique about Agape is that we do this focusing on trying to raise up Christians from these children, but also we're not there to ensure a long-term funding chain. We're there to encourage this kind of benevolent work. We're there to try to equip these workers, these church planners, these disciple makers who are there to care for these kids, equip them in doing that, providing training, and to sustain that. Our goal is to help launch new work. If you know about the project that started in the Philippines back in 2016, we helped launch that mission, that orphanage, that care center, and they're now on their own. They have some support, but we're not there to provide long-term care. We're working with organizations in these locations, and I'll share some of it with you later to help basically develop sustainable projects, sustainable work where local Christians can care for this work. They can either through farming ideas, through different types of business, through a variety of ways, can sustain themselves. But those three steps will help this work to become something that's actually owned and led by the local churches and the local Christians in these locations. Let's talk a little about the year. What happened in 2020? This probably is unfair to say, but it's also very apparent. All of the things that happened in our Agape work was impacted by COVID-19. Not a surprise. However, what we were able to do this last year, many organizations had to learn to pivot. Many organizations, charities like ours, actually closed. They shut down. They no longer operate. What God allowed us to do was actually pivot toward providing relief work. And what we were able to do is, with those that we work with on the ground in these countries, we had donors who came to us and said, we want to provide some help. What can we do? And so we had a little over $60,000 that was donated just to providing relief. And so at all these locations, starting in China, in Mongolia, in India, Myanmar, we provided relief efforts. We helped buy masks for some of the medical workers in Wuhan, China, back last January, February. We provided them to all of our children in the care centers. The care centers were closed down. We made sure all of the children and their legal guardians had medical care, had the masks they needed. They had food. In these other locations, we've done the same thing. And in fact, what we've been able to do in India, in Burma, in Nepal, and in Mongolia is we provided relief, life-saving food and medical care in these villages where we actually operate. That's not part of our core mission. We were actually working with the churches and with those church planners, able to reach those local communities. And what that's done, that's opened up the avenue for sharing the gospel with these folks. We could talk stories for hours about people that are coming to faith in Christ because of the coronavirus. I'm not going to tell you there's a silver lining for everyone. I've just heard, and I personally have some situation where loved ones have died as a result of the coronavirus. But I can tell you that God is at work, that the kingdom of God is reaching the lost. And through coronavirus and through the relief work that we've been able to do, we believe that we've been able to expand that and expand the kingdom. This is a shot in China back in last January. We partnered with an organization called MedShare. Some of you may have seen on our website. We provided funds to help provide a little over 5 million masks. The world has changed since then, but you need to understand that there was a huge need in Wuhan, China, back when this started. We provided help along with many other organizations. We also provided these masks to our care centers and to all the children. In addition, we also provided care for these families. This is a photograph of Moses. Some of you may know him. His name is Jukaiha. Moses is one of our directors. He's one of the leaders of our care center. This is a photograph of him providing care to a mother sitting she's there in the middle of the screen and her 8 children. She had lost her husband several years ago, but we have taken her 8 children into family-based foster care. Rather than taking these children into a care center, these children are there with their mom, but we're providing care for them and providing relief, providing food, but also ensuring those kids go to school, working with the local house churches and the underground churches to encourage that family. This is the kind of work. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt, but we're not seeing your slides change. I thought it might just be me, but I chatted with some others. Are you moving the slide that you're sharing?
I thought I was. Sorry. Is that? Can you guys see this?
Now I can see it. Yes. Sorry, I just spoke up earlier, but I thought it might just be a glitch on my machine. But
sorry, it may be mine. I'm out in the woods here in Tennessee. I may have a weak connection. Sorry.
Thank you, Jeff.
No, thanks for letting me know. That's great. So this is an example of what we were able to do, even during the virus, provide additional care for these families. In India, we partnered with a couple of new programs in India, but those programs were able to provide care to these families. One thing you need to know about different places in the world is that most people are day laborers and they live hand to mouth. And unless folks have food, unless folks have some way to actually get food on the table, those families would die. In India, we've provided food for hundreds of families, beyond just the children and those individuals that we care for, but through donations. About $10 can provide food for a family in parts of India for weeks. And so we were able to do that. This is a photograph on the streets in the southeastern part of India. The lady in the center there is Sonia Madiki. She and her husband, we are partnering with them. They have a children's ministry, street ministry, as well as a program to care for young women, and a women's empowerment ministry teaching young women to sew, providing life skills that they don't have. In India, again, we're able to provide this kind of care. Let me see. There we go. In Mongolia, yes, that's actually a sheep that you see in the bottom of the screen there. What we were able to do is provide food to families that they could not provide. This is a photograph of 2 of the staff members actually providing food and supplies back during Christmas to some of the families on the outskirts of the capital of Ulaanbaatar. That organization is called Amin Huhud, which if you read Mongolian, that's what that says. Trust me, it is what it says. This organization is made up of Christians in that local church. They started a charity that we partner with that has legal standing in the country. We provide this care working with social workers. We also work in local children's prison. We started a program there, mentoring, discipling, and having Bible studies with these children, helping them as they transition. In fact, there were 3 baptisms out of that program just this last year. We're going to continue that. We're going to grow. And we've actually been asked to start a program in the adult prison, which I don't know how we're going to do that. God knows how we're going to do it. We're not sure, but we're praying about that opportunity. This was actually providing some food, and they love sheep. And this is for a family of 8 children, a mother, and no dad. This is a photograph. Again, I apologize for the quality. I'm not sure why, but this is actually in Myanmar. One of the church leaders there in the center is providing some food in the local village. We were able, in addition to the children that have been taken into homes by these Christians, they were able to share these blessings because of what we were providing. In addition to providing regular care, we put food on the table and saved, I believe, thousands of lives. In Nepal, we work with an organization there providing care for children, about 60 kids that are sponsored there in the mountainous regions outside of Kathmandu. This was actually some relief work that we provided there, provided food, supplies, blankets. Other organizations provided blankets, caring for those during the coronavirus. This was back in the fall. Also there in Nepal, they have started a charity called Agape Nepal, which is a legally registered charity within the country. Those church leaders that we work with are visiting these rural areas, but there is this legal standing for this organization, and we partner with them providing this relief. So that was what happened in 2020. Let me kind of shift now. I've got about another 5 minutes. I promised the elders that I would respect the time and want to keep to 20 minutes. But I want to address something that a lot of people ask questions. Why do you care for children? Why is it children? Well, I think it's pretty clear. We saw earlier in James 1, James talks about how important it is to care for orphans and widows. But I think there's even a stronger, deeper reasoning here. And I want to talk a little bit about church history. I'm not a church historian, but there's a lot of things that have been written about the way the early church changed society. And I'm not talking about the early Catholic Church. We can go through all the details of what happened after Constantine and whatnot. But in the first couple of centuries in the early church, the church started impacting Roman and Greek society. And one of the ways they did that was they addressed the issue of exposure. Now, some of you may know what exposure is, some of you may not. It's infanticide. It's actually the depositing of children on the walls of cities or outside the walls of cities for children that aren't wanted or aren't desired. And this was a very common practice in Persia. It happened in China. It happened all over the world, in fact, until this man named Jesus came to a place called Nazareth, until he taught, until the church grew. You see, the writings in the early church talk about the society changed for a variety of reasons. It wasn't just about the deep theology. It wasn't just about these great teachings of morality. It was how that morality changed the practice. It changed the way people lived. And I think there's something here that is very important, because when I look back at our roots as an organization, our roots go back to what started with this man called Callista and other people. Now, this is a Renaissance work. I don't even know who wrote this, but this is actually called Life Watch. This is about it relates the story of people like Callista and Basil and others throughout Asia Minor and Rome and Greece, who, as Christians, would go outside the city walls, and they called it the Life Watch. They would walk along the walls and bring back children that had been left out and exposed. Up until the time that Constantine changed the law in the Roman Empire, it was legal to leave children out and abandon them. The early church changed the life for young children. It was through people like this that changed the life, that brought in, that saved these abandoned and vulnerable children. And as I look back over our history, and as I look at what we're doing with the help that you all provide, I believe that we're standing that life watch today. It's happening not only in Asia with our work, but lots of other places. That's how the church changed society in the first century, but it's how it's changing it today. In fact, this is a picture of of Moses and our people in China. You see, it's people today. I could call them Moses. They were Callista in the first century, but today Moses is Callista. He's the man who's stepping out. In fact, Moses was actually born as an orphan. He was raised up in the eastern part of China, and he stepped into our work over the last few years and is an amazing man who's making an impact on the lives of children, just like Callista and Basil and others did in the early first centuries of the church. You see, there are people that impacted the lives of a little girl named Jin Jin. She was abandoned about 2 years old, had a stroke. She was left at the door of a hospital, and through people that were Callistas, people named Michael O'Brien, Obi, and Dr. Jai Shiwei, and others, she was taken in, brought in, provided with heart surgery. She's now had 3 heart surgeries. The girl should have died at about 2 years old, but because of the work of these people, she's now a sister of yours and mine. She is in very difficult health and very difficult situation. She's about 20 years old. But you see, as a result of people like these Callistas in the 20th century, Jin Jin is a believer. She's a sister, and she has made it through. You see, it's because of people like Salango, this lady on the right. She's the one who leads our work in Mongolia. Salango is a Callista today. She's going into the homes of these individuals that live in these gers, or yurts, as we call them. This family, the grandmother standing there with her back to us in black, she's got actually 8 children that belong to her son. The mother is an alcoholic. She's disappeared. The son's in prison. But you see, as a result of people like Salango, we're able to step into the lives of these children to keep them off the streets, to keep them out, to provide a future for them. So these Callistas still live. There's a Callista in Myanmar named Sam. Sam has adopted, here he is actually baptizing one of the young people there in their church assembly. Sam's adopted 93 children. Sam is not even 40 years old yet. Over 15 years, he has adopted 93 children because the government would allow him to start an orphanage. 25 or so of them have grown, have started their own business, are successful, have planted churches around the capital of Yangon. Without any support, Sam does this on his own. In fact, he had 15 adopted children when he asked his wife to marry him. Quite a woman of faith, quite a family of faith. You see, Sam is one of these Callistas today. In India, I sat and listened to this story about this young girl. She's in school there in India right now because of 2 people on the left, Prim and Kumari. Sorry. Those Callistas live today because they helped give her a future. They helped take her up from a country that abandons 2,000 girls a day. There are Callistas in India that pick up these girls and give them an opportunity. So what can you do? Lots of things. You guys are great supporters. One of the things that we seek are sponsors for children. The way that we're able to provide for these children is $50 a month allows us to feed and clothe, whether they're in their own homes with grandparents or others, make sure they go to school, they're fed. We also provide surgeries. If you'd like to, it costs about $2,000, $2,500 to provide a open heart surgery to a child in China. That's it, to save the life of a child. Most important, pray for the children. Pray for our staff. Pray for Moses. Pray for those Callistas we've got on the ground there. Pray for the communities that we serve overseas. Extremely important that we pray for them. But also share our story. We love to share this message. Reach out to me. There's my phone number and my email address at the bottom. Contact me if there's someone who wants to hear more. I'd love to share this with them. But you can also follow us on Facebook. Follow us on social media. We like for you to know the story and hear the story, because this is about being on a journey with these kids. We've got people there that are doing that, and we love to have folks like you that are part of it as well. Now, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to open up for questions. I guess that's